I've been asked to explain what the difference is between a period instrument, a Baroque violin, and a modern violin might be. If I were to hold up a modern violin alongside this one, immediately we can see that striking difference. The modern violin has a chin rest on it. The chin rest was not used until Louis Spohr in the early 19th century. L'Abbé Le Fils used a small one in 1761. Noticeably another noticeable difference is the length of the fingerboard, which on the Baroque violin comes in at probably 1.5 to 2 inches shorter than on the modern violin. Sometimes it can be even much shorter than that, coming right up here. And the length of the fingerboard developed over the years as the music and the music that we played developed. One of the other noticeable differences is the looks of the neck. On the Baroque violin, the neck actually goes into the belly of the instrument directly, whereas on the modern violin it goes in at about a 7-degree angle. Because of this, on the Baroque violin, we now have we have a wedge inserted in here, which allows us to get enough height on the fingerboard so that the fingerboard doesn't run into the body of the instrument, and therefore we get enough height for the bridge over there. With the angle, that helps create it automatically. We're using gut strings, sheep gut strings, as opposed to the metal strings that we would use on a modern violin. The bridge is a lot flatter and less rounded than it is on a modern violin, as is the tailpiece. And internally, the bass bar, which runs on the bass side of the instrument, but only on the top plate, and the sound post, which runs between the bottom and the top and looks a bit like a piece of down, were both lighter in construction. They're the main differences in the violin. I mean, the basic shape looks the same now as it did when Stradivarius was making Baroque violins. One of the big differences, however, is in between the bows. The modern violin bow, as we see them today, did not become standardized until Francois Tourt standardized the hatchet head, the length of the bow stick, the width of the hair, adding in a ferrule, the thickness, the width band of hair, and a weighting between a certain weight expectation. Whereas the Baroque bows were all very different. First of all, instead of the hatchet head, they have a pike's head. They have an outward, not an inward curve. The hair band is less. There's nothing keeping the hair down here, so it will lift on and off. Like the modern bow, we use a screw mechanism to tighten the hair. Screw mechanisms were known in bows from at least 1694 onwards. But prior to that, they had bows with a clip-in mechanism where the frog would come out and it actually takes out completely. And simply we insert it between the stick and the hair, and there's a little notch in the bow. We pull it back, clip it in. Voila, your bow is tightened. This one you can see is much, much shorter than the modern bow, which has a standardized 25.5-inch playing length. Nothing was standardized in the Baroque period, so we can't really say this. I mean, we can say this is a Baroque bow, but we can also say, so that is a Baroque bow, but that is a Baroque bow also, but very different. The Baroque bows tended to be made of snake wood, whereas bows today are now made of pernambuco. Snake wood was a much harder type of wood, and in a sense less flexibility within it. Lots of ivory floating around, which I'm sure wouldn't be that PC these days. But the shape and the pike's head means that we approach the sound and making the sound on the instrument in a very different way. With a modern bow, if you put the hair on the string, both ends of the bow effectively go upwards, and so the hair gets tighter, and we can start with a clean, articulate sound and keep the consistency and the level of the sound throughout. With a Baroque bow, if you put the hair on the string, both ends go down, so the hair gets looser. So we can't start with a clean sound. If we try to, we just get a scratch. But we have a fractional bit of time before the main body of the sound kicks in for the bow to take up. And that is essentially the differences between the Baroque violin, the modern violin, and the bows of the period that we're using.